I knew he was gonna come in here. It's 4:10, so I just tried to do a video and it automatically shut me off. It's now 4:11, but I had already, cleaned up this room and got the garbage and everything. Um, I guess he was trying to double check, but so this video, um, I wanted to talk about how briefly about how about how growing up, about how people I thought I was treated by this way, treated this way by society, excuse me, because of my disability or disability discrimination or being black, female, and disabled. Because if you're a black female with a disability, it seems like you got it worse than a white female with a disability, or a white male with a disability, or even a black male with a disability, or any other race with a disability. So I thought that it was just a personal thing. And I might be gang stalked because I'm black, female, and disabled. And black people do their own kind the worst. So I know from seeing my biological brother Sean be treated a certain way, me and my twin sister being treated a certain way, she turned to the other side, sold out. So that's why she gets treated like normal now. She gets freaking praised now. And people have told me that, that she sold out to lessen the abuse with the programming and stuff like that. And that I'm still being targeted because I haven't sold out. But I'm heavily targeted. And it seems like as if you're not emotionally or psychologically sensitive, then they do the chemical and the physical stuff. If they can't get you psychologically and mentally, then they get you physically. But I still get the physical stuff too. It's not all psychological, and yes, they are trying to kill you. But I said I thought it was just a foster care phase to be treated like I had no business driving, or to be told that I don't have the business mentality or the sense to drive. And I thought once I got away from the foster mom, I thought that would be over and I would have my freedom. But boy, was I wrong. 38 years old. I have my license and I want to drive so bad, but I'm scared. I haven't driven that much in a while. I have not driven in over a year. And then even that little bit of driving, what was hardly much of anything. I guess the last time I did any actual driving was in 2018, So a little bit in 2019, I just barely made it, because of the perps sleep depriving me. But I see how people treat you if you have a disability. Society treats you a certain way. That just like what she did, what Monique did to me in that video. That you think all of my character is greedy as a person, but just because that one time somebody offered me a donut, and you think that makes me that all of my character a greedy person? That's not fair. And then getting called crazy, getting called retarded, and people calling me crazy and retarded, telling me, "Oh, you crazy bitch, go take your medicine." People in general, saying you need medication, you're crazy. and stuff like that from your own black people supporting eugenics and Nazism, and you don't even realize it. But some of y'all claim to be against the Illuminati and the New World Order, but you're still, like, how can you be against the New World Order, but then say that somebody's crazy and need medications? You fake and playing both sides. You know, and they used to say that my biological brother Sean, before he even gained a lot of weight, we were still in foster care. And, you know, they used to call Sean greedy a lot. They called me greedy a lot, and they called Sean greedy. Those psychiatric medications make you eat more. You know, so, and if somebody's considered a little overweight, then, you know, you get judged, or you're not allowed to have like one morsel of food to your mouth, or people want to just judge and condemn you. You know, I've had people fatter than me call me greedy. People like 2 or 3 times my size call me greedy, just to be cruel and mean. And I don't overeat anymore like I used to overeat, and I try to be careful with my sugar. I mean, I try, you know, but I don't, like, if I would have eaten like 4 donuts, like I'm scared to even eat 4 donuts anymore, you know. And in the past, you know, like a few years ago, it's like I was, you know, in a rough place psychologically and mentally, not realizing that this was part of the gang stalking, and, you know, dealing with what I dealt with Lisa Ruby and Tracy Broadhurst, with the spiritual abuse and having other things go on. And I, you know, ate 5 pralines trying to take myself out, and then I realized I wasn't ready yet, you know. And then when my cousin Blake got shot and killed, you know, I ate 6 donut sticks, you know, trying to cope with what I couldn't handle. And I used to have like an eating disorder with overeating and being on those psych medications years ago, you know. So, you know, and ever since being about 9 or 10 years old, I've been hypersensitive to being called greedy, or that's a trigger for me. But if somebody doesn't like you, and if you're seen by society as quote unquote retarded, you know, if you consider a special ed person or disabled, people call you greedy on purpose just to be mean. And they don't call you greedy because you're, you know, not that you're really covetous or a glutton or anything like that. It's like, and people should mind their own business. David Jane at the fake Hell's Way Church, now he makes harassing comments calling me greedy every chance he get. I never made fun of David or called him greedy or nothing like that. Like the fake Hell's Way Church, fake Pastor Eric, who was a narcissistic abuser. Some people say he was a sociopath with dead eyes. And he was considered like he had to register as a sex offender. So how can he judge anybody being a fake pastor? Eric Gullickson, and Ben Fraud, the Korean guy Ben Lim. You know, if Ben Lim didn't know anything about me, he got it from Eric to say that that me and David Jane, that we are the greediest people in the church. And I remember I was there when Eric tried to say, David, you can eat 6 plates of food, but you can't tithe. But, you know, that little bitty church, and Eric was exploiting and taking advantage of the poor. And the poor, homeless, and disabled. And me and David used to talk about that all the time. I never called David greedy. But, you know, if he ate a lot at the church, and I figured, well, if he ate so much at the church, I figured that I knew that the way they exploit and abuse and treated those disabled people where David lives at, they were adults being controlled and abused and treated very mean by those Filipino people who they were racist against me. You know, that lady Tina and a few other people, like David came and told me that Miss Tina said, "Oh, hey, David, where's your fat soul girlfriend?" But the lady barely knew English. And so then, Ben Lim tried to say that between you and Candy, like Ben Lim never, I think I may have seen him in person that one time. And then David tried to say David tried to say that Ben Lim told him, between you and Candy, I don't know who's the greediest one in the church, but besides y'all two or whatever. So I called Ben Lim. No, I didn't call him. I texted him and I cussed him out. And Ben Lim, he seemed like he was perping David perping and stalking and harassing and following David the same way the way Alex would do me. Ben Lim was gang stalking David and harassing him and locked him in the car. And I did that video defending David, and somehow my twin sister and whoever else twisted to make it like as if I was bad mouthing him. And then David a few months later started with the online harassing me. But they treat David mean, and they set David up. Like David said that there was these teenagers who set him up to go to jail because they lied. He gave them a cigarette. They asked him for a cigarette, and they lied and said that they were adults and they were actually 15, and they set him up to go to jail. So I don't know all that about that, but he told me about that. But the way they try to set him up and make a fool out of him and treat him mean. But I guess maybe David must have caved into the gang stalking program to lessen the abuse as well, because now he's targeting and perping me. And it's a shock because David cannot call anyone greedy. And David used to eat more than me, but I didn't judge him because, as I said, I suspected that he was being deprived at that place he was staying at. It wasn't his fault if he was overeating at the church where he had this freedom to do so, if they might have been starving and depriving him, and I never would have said that David was greedy, so but now David creates new accounts harassing me, calling me greedy at every opportunity. I never made fun of his bed bugs or anything. Other people made fun of him, but I was the only one who tried to help him get rid of it. And then the people at the place where he lived at, they would confiscate the items that I gave for him to try to get rid of the bed bugs, But I never looked down on or made fun of him. I mean, David has come to my house numerous times, and he's disrespected my house before, like by smoking in my bathroom when I asked him, can he go outside and smoke, and if I was treating David all the time. I was buying him food all the time. David asked me for money for a couple of times. He asked me for money and said, "Oh, I ain't trying to use you or nothing, but can I have such amount of money?" Or, but the only thing I ever asked David for was a couple of times to use his phone when I didn't have a phone for important phone calls. That was it. But other than that, I never asked David for any money. David never really gave me any money, but he made false promises to treat me out one time. And there was another lady, fake Dolores. She was a narcissistic perp. And so were her kids, mainly that gay son, Michael. And fake Dolores would, act like she wanted to try to control our friendship. And she set it up to where if Candy is always treating you all the time, well, David, now you should try to treat her. And so David stood me up that when I told my twin sister about it, and I was hurt. And so then my twin sister twisted everything around, and David told her that she basically lied and said that about me doing harm to the kids and stuff like that. Doing harm to her kids and molesting her kids and, trying to just turn every friend I have against me, my twin sister. So she was trying to get in David's head, and I was hurt. But David stood me up more than once. And then he was telling me about how people at his job were using and taking advantage of all his money. But when he took me out to eat, and people said that it was very stingy of him to only, if all the times I treated him out, like I treated him, like when I was in Los Angeles, I treated both of us out to like the Korean restaurants. Well, he showed me the Korean malls, but he didn't treat me out or anything, but he showed me the Korean. Me and him hung out a lot. So, and David would always tell me about, somebody said this about you or somebody made fun of you with this and stuff like that, and it would be like stuff that's really hurtful. So, something else I was going to say, but I forgot. But, the biological brother, Sean, they used to call Sean greedy. Now, the biological sister Ramona in 2015, she tried to call me greedy during an argument while stuffing her face with 4 huge pieces of cake. And she's like, so what? At least I wasn't fat when I was your age. I said, yes, you were 32 years old and fat. And I said, you're fat now. I mean, Ramona supposedly freaking died. The biological sister Ramona, she's supposedly diabetic. And, I mean, still eats recklessly, does not care, so, and it's like a lot of people, when they want to make it like they want to call you greedy only when it comes to junk food, so I'm working on a short story right now about if somebody would go to eat somewhere and eat a large salad, and then somebody joke and say, what are you trying to be, reverse greedy? So me trying to make some humor and some light of the insults or whatever. I mean, it started off when people used to call me greedy a lot when I was in 5th grade, and on 5th and 6th grade, and on Prozac and gaining a lot of weight, and ever since then, that's set the stage of me overeating. But then I looked throughout like 7th grade all the way through 11th, my weight was fine. And the foster mom still like harassing me, like I could never be skinny enough for her. But here you sitting here pumping all these toxic psychiatric medications on me. You pumping these psychiatric medications that's child abuse. But then you say that for me to feed Joni's daughter India a small little piece of Hershey, you call that child abuse. It was just a small little piece of candy. So, I mean, the foster mom was just trying to look for any way she can to destroy me too. Any nitpicky little way to destroy me. She wouldn't have fed her own children psych medications because she's that narcissistic and high-minded that she feels like her kids are normal and something's wrong with us because we don't biologically belong to her. But even the biological brother Mark would call me and Sean greedy. But Wyatt and Derek would eat like hogs too, but because they're skinny, nobody's gonna call them greedy. And because they're accepted by society. And so sorry for such a long segment on this topic of being called greedy, but the idea that, if I'm considered a special ed person that nobody likes, and being on psych meds all those years, but I get full now, and I don't overeat now. I just eat my normal 3 meals a day. But if you hate me, then 1 meal a day is 1 taco per day. Yeah, that's too much. Y'all, because y'all hate me so much, you don't want me to eat at all. You don't want me to live. You don't want me to exist. I'm not allowed to be happy. But, I mean, and the Bible says if you judge people, then, you're going to be judged just that same way. But now you say that, condemn somebody about being greedy over 1 donut. I mean, usually customarily people be like, well, if you reject the offer for the donut, then people will be like, well, that's impolite that you reject the offer. that, that you should just politely accept it. Like in Costa Rica, when we went to Costa Rica, the host mom in Costa Rica tried to call me greedy and tell me I eat too much. I'm like, well, you're the one sitting there feeding me too much, So, I mean, I didn't have a good experience in Costa Rica like I was supposed to because of the gang stalking. I didn't realize I was being gang stalked at that time. But even the host mom in Costa Rica was a perp, and her son, they were perps. And I didn't realize that till, years later, putting the pieces of the puzzle of things together. So, but she used to feed me a lot of food. Just like at certain shelter, like at the shelter in Los Angeles, one girl used to feed me. She used to have a bad attitude, and she used to feed me a lot of food and then turn around and call me greedy. And then, but then I would be rude or wasteful if I threw it away. And so I remember in elementary school, they had this boy named Keenan Henderson. And I didn't realize that was perping. That he be like, "Here, Candy, you want my pizza?" "Oh yeah," and I was on that Prozac, and so like, "Yeah, I'll take it." And so I ate it, and then he shook his head. Because I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll take it," and then he shook his head, greedy, and then he would give it to me, and then after I ate it, then be like, "Ew, he spit in it," and stuff like that. And that happened with this white boy named Corey Mooney. Corey Mooney, his mom used to work there. And he did that to me with a burrito a couple of times, at school. But by the time I was in junior high, people didn't really, they didn't really bully me about being greedy. It was just mainly in, elementary school. And then college, I was on that trazodone. And then years later, Doxepin used to make me overeat. And Cymbalta used to make me eat like a pig. And stuff like that. And certain of those used to have me eat like a pig and stay, like, sleep 15 hours a day and eat like a pig and then be more depressed and stuff like that. And so if y'all wouldn't force us on those medicines, we wouldn't have to, So, I haven't been on medication since 2011. Only once or twice I took the pills in 2012. And then in 2016, they forced a medication on me. I think it was Ativan or something. Forced me against my will. That abusive, mean emergency room doctor. Just because they were perping and abusing me then at the emergency room. People who weren't patients there. So. But they do stuff like trying to make a fool out of you. Like, they used to push me and my twin sister up to try to make a fool. To dance. They try to push us up to dance vulgar, to make a fool out of us and to set us up to get in trouble. And the biological brother Sean, they used to push him up to do Michael Jackson dance on purpose to try to get their laughs and try to make a fool out of him. And they used to even try to threaten me, like Flex. And I'm like, Flex, I don't know or Pop, because New Orleans had their certain dances. I'm like, I don't know what it means to flex. And then they threatened to beat me up if I didn't dance the way that they wanted. And they used to, try to use Sean for show to try to manipulate him to doing like backflips. And one time he had to go, he split his hand open, part of his hand open, and had to go to the emergency room because they used to try to make a fool out of Sean. With us being in foster care and stuff, he was in high school and they tried to make a fool out of him. And, he had to go to the emergency room because they used to make a fool out of him with trying to force him to do backflips. And they used to use and take advantage of the little bit of money. They used to bully, harass, and threaten us out of our money at school, too. And my twin sister got more beatings in school than I did, but mine was more psychological, even though I had my beatings and bullying from the kids too. The bully Kim Irons, and I felt like I didn't trust trying to let her back into my life after adulthood, and that's a different topic right there, because I got to get back to work. So it's just really people think that if you're labeled mentally ill or quote unquote crazy, mentally ill, retarded, that you have less rights than normal people in society, and they try to set you up and try to criminalize everything that you do and say and stuff like that. And so I'm glad I was able to vent out, because this has been on my mind. Like, after I started the job working today, this was on my mind. So I felt the need while I'm off. I'm kind of 10 minutes behind, but I can catch up. On my, catch up with, just work those next 3 bathrooms a little faster. So, thanks for letting me vent, and thanks for listening to me, and I'll see y'all later.